Hi trainers, how are you today? Thank you very much for joining me. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Heather and it's fantastic to have you here today. We are doing something a bit different than what I've previously done on my channel. We're going to be talking about a drug called Topiramate, which is a drug that's prescribed for people with chronic migraines and epilepsy. And the reason I'm having a chat about that today is because I've been on that drug for the last 5 years and recently I've just come off of it. And I just wanted to have a chat about my experience because I hope that it might help people that are also suffering from chronic migraines and just want a resource to hear somebody's first-hand experience of being on that drug. That's just kind of what I'm going to be chatting about today. If you do have any questions as I go through this video, please do, pop them in the comments below and I'll be happy to just talk to you as much as possible about, my experience and hopefully answer any questions that you have. But please bear in mind, I'm not a medical professional and I'm not giving medical advice here today. This is just my first-hand experience. From the age of 12 to about 23, maybe 24, I maybe had a migraine once or twice a year. With that frequency, I was not suffering from chronic migraines and I didn't really seek out any help because I just got used to it. Once or twice a year, it wasn't really so big a problem. Around the time that I started suffering from chronic migraines, the way that I live my life now was actually very different to what it was back then. I was over 14 stone. And I had a very sedentary lifestyle. I wasn't healthy. I had a really bad diet. I just wasn't really doing anything in regards to kind of helping myself on a kind of health level. So at that time when, I was that heavy, I actually had to have a heart operation because I had a hole in my heart. It was congenital and it needed to be fixed. During that operation, I flatlined basically. I was dead. I'd suffered an allergic reaction, or otherwise known as anaphylactic shock, due to what they believe was the cleaning fluid used on the medical tools. I went for a lot of allergy testing after the operation and they still actually don't know what caused me to go into anaphylactic shock and flatline. Luckily enough, I was brought back and I went on to live another day. The entire experience for me was incredibly traumatic on a physical level and also on a mental level. It actually took a really, really long time to recover. I'm not going to go into too many details, but it was bad. It was really bad. At the same time that I was recovering from that operation, there was a series of quite traumatic events that happened within my family unit. It all led up to me kind of getting the big sad depression, which was quite extreme as well. All of that was kind of going on. I remember I was at work one day, I got a migraine. I know straight away because I'm like, okay, I have an aura. I went home, just went to bed, took painkillers and just did what I usually did, which was sleep through it. I woke up the next day feeling groggy, but okay otherwise. And then I got a migraine the next day and that had never ever happened to me before. I was a bit worried. I went home again, slept through it and went back to work the day after that. Next day was fine. The fourth day, I got another migraine. That to me was like a huge red flag because there is, in all my life up till that point, I said before, I only had 1 or 2 migraines a year, but now I'd had 3 in a space of 4 days. What then started to happen was my migraines got so bad and so frequent that I was essentially having a migraine every 1 to 2 days. As you can imagine, it was really impacting my life in pretty much every way that you can imagine. Socially, on a professional level, I was taking so much time off work. My depression got even worse because, of course, I was spending every other day in a huge amount of pain. I was in a situation at work where I was having to justify my medical situation. And the problem with a migraine is that nobody can see you having a migraine. It's different with other conditions maybe where you can actually see the signs. If you walk up to somebody and you say, hey, I have to go home, I'm having a migraine, they literally have to take that at face value. And I could see people just didn't believe me. And that was the most frustrating thing about the whole situation because, you just can't tell if someone's having a migraine. The worst migraine I ever got, I remember I was at work, I got sent home and I think I slept for about 8 hours. Normally that would have been enough for me to wake up and for the actual pain to have subsided. In this situation, I still had a really, really bad migraine. It was probably some of the worst pain I've been in. At that point, my arm was completely numb, my face was numb, I was slurring my speech, and it got so bad that when I called for advice on 111, they actually said to me, we think you're having a stroke. And of course, having suffered migraines for so long, I knew that I wasn't having a stroke. I knew it was just the symptoms of the migraine, but I ended up having to go into hospital so that they could check it all out. I remember they just said to me, there's nothing we can do for you. We can give you some anti-nausea medicine because like at that point, I think I'd thrown up 4 or 5 different times. You just have to take more painkillers and you have to go home and just suffer through it. It was becoming so traumatic going through this migraine situation that the next time I had a migraine after that hospital visit, and that was like only 2 days, you know, between the 2 migraines, I actually had a full-blown panic attack at work because of how scared I was of going through all of that pain again. So after that trip to the hospital, that was when I sought the advice of a neurologist. That neurologist told me about Topiramate. He gave me a prescription for that and I went on it. Looking back now, I feel maybe they should have told me more about the side effects of going on Topiramate, the pros, the cons and that sort of thing, but at the time it was just kind of sold to me as this should hopefully fix your migraines, and of course at that point I was like, I'll take it, I'll take anything, just give it to me, like I need it, I just don't want to suffer this anymore. Whilst I was also at the neurologist, we had spoken about what my potential triggers were, and unfortunately I don't know what the triggers are for my migraines. I did the usual food diary to track if there was anything coinciding with my migraines. I stopped drinking caffeine. I was exercising and losing weight to be more healthy. But they did say that it could have actually been the trauma of my operation that had actually triggered the migraines. When I started taking Topiramate, this was around 5 or 6 years ago now. I'm really foggy on the timeline, which I apologise for, but I don't have my medical notes. When I first started taking it, the transition period was pretty rough. I had nausea full on for about 2 to 3 weeks and I couldn't eat. I just had no appetite. Of course you have to eat. I was trying to eat, but it literally felt like every time I was going to eat, I was going to throw back up again. You know, it wasn't great, but to be honest with you, I can't remember anything outside of that nausea. I started on 25 milligrams, which is a very low dosage. Unfortunately, I then continued having migraines. From starting the 25 milligram dosage to when I needed to up it to 50 milligrams, I had 2 migraines in between that period. It was advised for me to double my dose, which I did. I think, again, maybe I had a bit of nausea, but there wasn't really any other side effect. Once I upped my dosage from 50 milligrams, from that point to this point, I've only had 1 migraine in that entire time, which to me, I seriously consider like a success story. I went from having a migraine every 1 to 2 days to not having had, you know, a migraine over a period of around 4 years. My experience with being on Topiramate overall has been really good. During the quarantine, I took the decision to actually come off Topiramate, and that might seem really contradictory because I've just spent the last couple of minutes talking about how great it worked for me. But the reason being is because Topiramate is also known for its really strong side effects. There's a couple I want to talk about, which is hair loss, the inability to construct your sentences or forgetfulness, not being able to communicate properly, and third is numbness in the hands. I ended up suffering from all of those side effects. It was only over the last couple of months where it got really, really bad. I would notice, first of all, that my left hand was pretty much numb all of the time. It would kind of be that weird tingling sensation, but a lot of the time, my little finger on my left hand, for example, was just completely numb, like I could barely feel it. It sounds so crazy, but I was just like, oh, I guess that's just my body now. I just didn't really attribute it to it being a side effect of Topiramate because I didn't really know about that specific side effect. The side effects I was more aware of was the hair loss and the kind of impact it has on your speech. Recently, I'd noticed, especially kind of during the quarantine, that I was really struggling to converse with people. I couldn't remember basic words. I would have a sentence up here, but when I tried to articulate it, it just wasn't happening. I just, for some reason, would forget the sentence halfway through. It just wasn't me. It wasn't how I normally communicated with the world. And that was starting to really bother me because, as silly as it sounds, like I didn't want people to think I was stupid. The hair loss was a huge concern for me, and I appreciate it might make me sound really shallow, but I only recently started making YouTube videos frequently over the last couple of months. And during that period, I was seeing myself on screen and looking at angles of myself that I, can't see normally. I noticed that, you know, when I was wearing Alice bands and I was doing my makeup on video, my hairline was crazy bad. Like, I've never seen it like that before, and it never used to look like that. I used to have really, really thick hair, and now if you look at my hair, it's so thin, like it's crazy. Plus the fact I'm now suffering from this jagged hairline. There's bald patches where there shouldn't be bald patches. You know, you can see straight through to my scalp. That was a massive change, and it has really affected my confidence. And as I've been making these videos, it sounds so stupid, but I'll try and crop out my hairline because I don't want people to think I'm going bald at 30. I spoke to my GP about the side effects that I've been having, and she actually did give me the advice that it would be a good idea to come off the Topiramate. And actually, one of the things she said really struck a chord with me, which was, we don't even know if you would be suffering from the chronic migraines now. You did back then, but you might not now. But you won't know that until you come off the Topiramate. I felt like I was in a really weird situation then, because it kind of felt like I was potentially trading off the ability to not suffer from these, you know, debilitating migraines just for the sake of my vanity and maintaining, you know, the hair that I have now. But she did have a really good point, and it was something that I wanted to find out, which was, am I still actually suffering from chronic migraines? Because as long as I'm on this drug, I'm attributing the fact that I'm not having migraines to this drug, but it could be the fact that I've, you know, lost weight in that time. It could be the fact that the trauma from my operation and the other stuff that was going on in my family at the same time, I've processed that. I've processed what I needed to process, and I'm in a different place right now. So I did decide to come off the drug, and I was confident and I was happy in that decision, but I was scared, I was nervous, because I didn't know how it was going to impact me, and it was like the worst nightmare would have been if the chronic migraines came back. I just want to talk a little bit about the withdrawal that I went through coming off of that drug, because it was pretty intense and it was not what I was expecting at all. And considering that I was only on 50 milligrams, that's still a very low dosage for a lot of other migraine sufferers that I see discuss their dosage. First of all, I couldn't come off them just cold turkey. There was a whole process to it. So I went down to 25 milligrams for a whole week, and then the week after I was on 25 milligrams, and then alternating days where I was taking the pill. At first it was fine, I felt okay, I felt normal, you know, there wasn't really any impact. And then a couple of days after I actually fully came off the Topiramate, it just hit me, and it was the craziest thing. I've never experienced anything like it before. The first thing I want to talk about during my withdrawal process was the fatigue. I would wake up in the morning for work and it would feel like I had just not slept at all during the night. I'd go down to my laptop, because I'm working from home at the moment, of course, so I'd go down to my laptop, I'd work it for the morning, and then I'd go upstairs, sleep in my lunch hour, go back downstairs to work in the afternoon, finish work at 5, come back upstairs, and I would just lay in bed, and then I'd just sleep at 7 or 8. I just needed sleep 24/7. I was exhausted, I had no energy, I didn't leave the house, I just was in my bed or at my laptop, and that was it. That lasted for about 2 to 3 weeks. The other really weird thing that happened was my hip joints would ache so bad. It was like this aching pain that would go from my hip joints down to my thighs and up to my stomach. It felt like cramps, but it was just at my hips and around my thighs. And I remember at one point I just couldn't even walk. I just couldn't get out of bed because of how bad my legs hurt. And I know I'm laughing, but it was like the weirdest thing, because why would coming off drugs affect your legs? That took me completely by surprise. I also had nausea again, very similar to the nausea I had coming onto the drugs. I had the exact same thing coming off the drugs, but there was nothing I could do about it. I just had to ride it out. And then around week 3, everything started abating and it got easier, and eventually everything just went away. It's now been around 4 or 5 weeks since I've come off the drug, and luckily, touch wood, I've not had a migraine, which is absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited, and I really hope that that continues. I'm just trying to not think about it, really. I'm just trying to live my life as normal, trying not to get anxiety about the situation, because I'm actually really worried that anxiety is going to bring it on. So I'm like, just ignore it, it's fine. In regards to the hair situation, there's not really much I can do except for wait this out. When I spoke to the GP, she told me that new hair growth cycles every 6 weeks. Hopefully then that means in a couple of weeks from now, I might start seeing some new regrowth. That's what I'm really hoping for. But when I go online and look at forums talking about the hair loss side effect, some people do say that it grows back. Some people say that it's never grown back for them once they've come off the drug. Really, I just have to wait and see. I am taking vitamins to try and help, biotin, zinc, multivitamin tablets, all that kind of stuff. It's all herbal, not medical. I'm just hoping that by taking good care of my hair, it might grow back. That's what I'm hoping for. But you know what, like at the end of the day, it's just hair. And I already own so many wigs. I don't think it's going to really be a problem for me if I do end up going bald, because I'm just going to have new hair every day. Like, I've paid for those wigs, I might as well use them. I'll keep you guys updated on my hair as I make my new videos. And that's it really. I just kind of wanted to have a chat, like I said, about Topiramate, my experience on it, what I went through. If you did like the video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, you know, that would be cool. My channel is mostly comprised of makeup and unboxings and stuff like that. Maybe check out some of my other videos and you might like what you see. If you're a Pokemon fan, you definitely will. If you want to leave your own experience of, you know, migraines and other medication that you've been on, I'm really happy to just have a conversation about that, because for me personally, I used to frequent the subreddit migraines, and that was a really great support network for me. But I always was a lurker. Like, I never actually talked to anyone or spoke about my experience, and I think that was one of the things that really led into my depression and my feeling of like helplessness. I wish that I had done that previously. I think it would have helped me a lot, but I just didn't, because I'm a massive introvert and I'm scared of social interactions. Otherwise, do feel free to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Articuno is on the way. I ordered my wig, and well, I'm not going to tell you what I ordered because it's a surprise, but they sent it back. No wig for you. No. What, Amazon, what are you doing? Why are you sending my stuff back? I don't understand. Regardless, have the most fantastic day, stay safe, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.